All right, welcome everyone to Breaking Big Blue. I'm your host, Jordan Raanan on ESPN, ESPN.com. Giants reporter, Breaking Big Blue, Giants Nation show collaboration. We got it right. Hey, Bobby, I know you're back there, so I got a little story for you. So I just actually came home a couple hours ago. And I don't know, I ended up flying to and from Philadelphia because, I don't know, it was just, I guess it was a better flight. I think I didn't want to take like a 5, 6 a.m. flight home from New Orleans. And so the flights were better out of Philly. And as I'm getting off the plane, right, somebody from the back yells, Jordan. And he says, Giants Nation for life. Random from the plane.
Bam!
And just a lot of people, when we were in New Orleans, because Bourbon Street packed. Right, it seemed like with Giant fans. Then you get to the stadium, you're like, not too much, but Bourbon Street seemed like it was packed with Giants fans, and everyone I bumped into that recognized me basically said that they loved this collaboration. So here we are, breaking down another disaster. Okay, now Bobby, sends me questions. We're going to talk about some stuff in a bit, and I'm actually going to talk about some stuff to start. Because I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, you're losing to the Saints, right? You have your new quarterback in. I get it. He's going to be up and down. But they're winning this game. They're up 14-3. They're off to a really good start. Like, you can't lose these kind of games. Like, you're just a really bad team if you're losing these kind of games. So they end up losing 26-14. There's so much to break down. A total disaster. 5 turnovers in a row. And you're like, first of all, how is that even possible? And you're like, it's the play. The player's got to make plays. True. But there's just so many things. Like, how can this team, this is the crazy part. They had all the details buttoned up that first year under Dable in 22. It seemed like that's what they were so good at. And ever since then, that's what they're so bad at. And the same thing here. The second they fall behind, Jaxson Dart has to go back and sling it around the yards. They can't pass the ball. The second they took away his legs, they can't do anything anymore. The defense, secondary, total disaster. I mean, they're bad right now, the secondary. And you're like, wait, how is this team still so bad? And who deserves the blame? And that's where I go. And a lot of people are, focusing on the minutia. Oh, why do they have 2 empty roster spots? They could have called somebody up from the practice squad, put them on the roster, by the way, and they wouldn't have been active anyway. It would be the same 46 guys that are active, right? Because you need X number of inactives every game, depending on whether you're taking guys from the practice squad. But you could juggle the roster. But that's the minutia. You're talking about the 50th guy on the roster, the 51st, 52nd, 53rd guys on the roster. That's not where this team's problem is. Where this team's problem is when you look at their playmakers, it's overall talent. So I think you have to start and say, Joe Schoen, like, what is Joe Schoen and his group, the front office, what is the team that they're building? And is it good enough? Because the answer is obviously not. Like, the talent's not good enough. The collection, the group together is not the right mix. And really, look, I'm not going out and saying anything that's crazy. The results speak for themselves. It's clearly not the right mix when you lose 3-14 and 1-4. So you're 4-17 in your last 21 games. Clearly not the right mix. And then when you try to sell, well, Russ's leadership is going to make a difference. We're going to bring back 10 of the 11 guys on offense. That's going to be the difference. Okay. Jameis Winston, his leadership. Okay. Like, that doesn't magically make guys good. So you lose Malik Neighbors. We knew this was going to be a problem. Now, the problem here is, okay, sure, you lost a great player. It's going to be impossible to totally fill that void. But now you're left with the cabin bare empty because you don't have another big playmaker. You have Cam Scatterboo, who looks like he's going to be an okay running back, quality running back. Tyrone Tracy, who's okay also. Probably going to get a decent combination there. See, Danny Bonaduce. Theo Johnson might be an incoming superstar tight end, like Danny LaMontagne. Like, I hope that's. I mean, I don't even. Actually, sorry, Danny Bonaducci said that. Love the names, by the way. Like, I don't. I hope that's sarcasm on your end. Like, do we forget what good players, like really good high-end players, look like these days? It's not Theo Johnson. He's a fine player. He looks like he could be a contributor. Theo Johnson doesn't look like he's a high-end. He had 6 catches on 7 targets for 33 yards. Like, that's not a superstar player. That's not a big-time player. He looks like he could play. He could be a starter or a complimentary piece, but you better have other big-time players around him. So you don't have it at running back. You don't have it at tight end. You have it at wide receiver one, and you're playing a rookie quarterback. You tell me how that's good enough overall. And by the way, the offensive line, while they played better, is not this great offensive line. So where's the strength of the offense? So the second you lose your superstar, that's how you get there. So they have not built a good enough team. This idea that the Giants have enough talent is crazy to me. Let's look at the team they're playing this week. I get it. The Eagles are the best, most people consider them the most talented team in the league. The Eagles right now, without Malik Neighbors on the Giants roster, are better at all 11 starting positions on offense. All 11. Every single one. That's the talent discrepancy we're dealing with. So when you start with the blame, and look, I think Brian Daboll's doing a bad job, right? I can't argue it. When you lose 17 to 21 games, you're doing a bad job. When you lose 17 to 21 games, you're doing a bad job constructing the roster. That's just simple, math, okay? And I think we saw that in this game. There's they made mistakes left and right, but there's just things that go on. You're like, why is Deonte Banks still playing? We'll get to that in a minute. He's got 4 penalties. He barely plays. Deonte Banks barely plays, and he has 4 penalties already. And he's not getting better. We asked Shane Bowen today, and we'll get to some of the things he said there about, who's making these decisions. I know Bobby's really into that. But, yeah, he has to get his head around. Like, we know this. You switched, you made Jerome Henderson the scapegoat this past offseason, right? Did that work and solve the problem? No, it's still the same thing. So at some point, we have to realize that things like that's not the coaching, right? Deonte Banks he hasn't learned. He hasn't learned how to play the ball. And at this level, you're not that much more physically talented than everybody else. You can't just dominate. And then you look, okay, at a bigger picture. Oh, how about the guys that they're drafting? Deonte Banks, effort was a problem last year. Work ethic. First-round pick. Evan Neal told the fans to flip burgers. He's sitting on the bench. Right? Kayvon Thibodeau, good, solid player. But, I mean, he's a personality on his own. At least if, and we're talking about putting together the mix of guys. These are the guys that you drafted. And now, at least if they're not going to be great players, they should have been super clean, prospects in regards to character. And yet that isn't even the case. So it's like, what are we doing here? And you wonder why you're losing games. You're wondering why you can't beat the New Orleans Saints. There's not enough talent on that field. Like, the fact that they're equal talent to the Saints just tells you where they are. Like, you don't look at the field and say they're so much more talented than the Saints. I'm sorry. You don't. To me, they're in the same category. Maybe the Giants are a little better, especially because they have more names on the defensive side that I think could be high-end players. I mean, whereas the Saints are getting old. But, man, it's frustrating. And I'll be honest with you, when we talk about the right mix, it bothers me to my core when you see players, after they get their teeth kicked in New Orleans to a Saints team that had 0 victories, and Theo Johnson, I'm just sorry, I'm picking on him. Really, it's indicative of the culture in that locker room and really around the league. It's not so much Theo Johnson, but I just happened to see it today. He's posting pictures on social media on his story about his touchdown. Like, you just got your teeth kicked in by a winless team. And Javon Holland's posting highlights too. Your secondary just got shredded. I don't know. Something doesn't seem right to me. It's almost like you're accepting losing there. It's like, we lost. Okay. Yeah. Could have won that game. Oh, well. What's like, nothing seems right with this team right now. It really doesn't. It really doesn't. And that's how you end up losing 17 of 21 games. They're 1-4. And you tell me, how's it going to get better? Eagles on Thursday night at Denver. Really good Denver defense. It's going to be a super tough game for rookie quarterback and Jaxson Dart to go on the road. At Philadelphia versus San Francisco. Another good defense. Robert Saleh doing a great job there in San Francisco. Right? And then you got Chicago. Okay, they're okay. In Chicago, though, on the road. Green Bay in MetLife. Just tough game for Jaxson Dart, rookie quarterback. And then the Lions in Detroit. You could easily sell me the Giants don't win any of those games. Now I think they'll spike up here or there like they did against the Chargers. Jaxson Dart will have a good game here or there. The defense will have a good game. Let's give them 2-5 in that stretch. And by the way, that's being super generous. Super, super generous. 2-5. Okay? They're 1-4 right now. I'm not great at math. That's 3-9. Okay? 3-9. 3-9. Like, that's the ceiling for this team when they get through that Lions game. 3-9. I mean, that's bad. Like, we're in competition for being the worst team in the league again. And if you say, wins don't matter, here's what John Mara said. I still have it on the top of my screen here, just for when I need it. And this is what he said after last season. I'm aware of how many games we've won. And obviously, the results are not even close to what we want them to be. They're going to have to get better if we're going to move on to year 5. He actually said year 4 there, but he was messing around. The results are not even close to what we want them to be. They're going to have to get better if we're going to move on to year 5. Anybody see that? Does anybody see that right now? I mean, after they spike up for that 1 week, you get hope. You have Jaxson Dart to rest your hat on, right? And then they go and just start fumbling the ball away, doing things that you just don't make any sense. You tell me. So the Giants had the ball 3 times, 4th and short. Pretty much every time I think it was 4th and 2. From their own 48, the end of the first half, right? 2 final possessions in the first half before Slayton fumbled, and that changed the game. Slayton, by the way, terrible game. Played awful. Needed him to step up into number 1 spot, which we know he's not. And he had one of the worst games of his career. So really bad. But let's go for a second. So talk about, these are the things that give me very little hope that the way they operate is ultimately going to be a success. 2 times in a row, 4th and 2 from their own 48. And they punt. Okay, one of them, Rashid Shaheed, goes 87 yards on the next play. Okay, they punt. Then, opening possession in the second half, from their own 45, 4th and 2, I believe, they go for it. And, we asked Dable about it. Oh, yeah, they give me, there's all these numbers and stuff. Well, how did the numbers change so much in such a short period? It just feels like they're flying it by the seat of their pants. And these little things matter. Now, when you turn it over 5 times, as Brian Dable said, that's hard to even do. Like, he was so, couldn't believe it. Like, we turned it over 5 times. That's hard to even do. You're not going to win. But all these little things add up. good teams are able to stop that snowball from rolling down the hill. And the Giants are absolutely not a good team. They're not disciplined. They're not on their details, which they said that was going to be a focus this year. The secondary is committing penalties left and right. Tyler Nubins has help in the middle, and his leverage is supposed to be to the outside, cover the outside. He turns to the middle and basically gets beat by the speed of Shaheed. Can't happen. Like, that's not even coaching. They were in the right spot there. If anything, it's from the coaching part, it's making sure that guys are aware of what their responsibilities are, because obviously they're not. They look discombobulated on the back end. Marquand Manuel, by the way, has had Jeff Burris. They've had success in this league before. We wanted to pretend like, hey, they got rid of Jerome Henderson and Mike Trier last year, like, as that was going to solve it. Yeah, that solved the problem, just like getting rid of Bobby Johnson solved their offensive line problems. Maybe it's a talent problem. Maybe they're getting the wrong talents here. Now, I know the front office is probably thinking, hey, they're not developing these guys. These have to have talent. Look at Tyler Nubin. He's a second-round pick. Look at the size, the speed. He has talent. It's not clicking. But if we keep rolling through these position coaches, want to do new defensive coordinator again, right? Everybody wants to get rid of Shane Bowen. Like, maybe it's a talent problem, because I honestly, on offense, it is a talent problem. It's impossible for Jaxson Dart to be able to be consistently successful with those weapons, with that and the offensive line played well, by the way, in pass protection for the most part at the end when they had to go back and pass every down and start to fall apart a little bit. But their offensive line isn't great. When they're average, that's good enough for us now, right? You're like, okay, at least they're average. That's a success. Their weapons, aside from really neighbors, are significantly below average. They're not strong in any position. And then they're playing with a rookie quarterback. So how is he possibly going to be successful? And Bobby's going to ask me all these questions about roster spots and bottom of the roster decisions of, empty roster spots and signing a guy like Isaiah Hodgins off the Steelers practice squad. That's not solving this problem here. The problem is that you need high-end players to win you games, to make plays consistently. Now, you can't have Darius Slayton play that kind of game, right? He admitted, did not play well, left plays on the field, felt terrible. Forget the drop, that was bad. Just, that kind of happens. The fumble was just a killer. Jaxson Dart's fumble, just losing the ball. A killer. Then Cam Scatterbu again, losing the ball. They were inside the 20-yard line. They're in the red zone. Touchdown. Other way. I mean, you can't win like that. And that's the whole point with the whole Saquon argument, right? Well, Saquon's money went to Slayton, and to me, they're not even the same decisions. They're completely separate. You can have a running back you keep high-end players. You have a running back who's really good, with a receiver like Neighbors who's really good, and with a receiver that you pay like Darius Slayton. Like I said, look at the Eagles. They have A.J. Brown. They have Saquon Barkley. They're paying a quarterback too. Like, you can make it work. You do it with good players. You need more than one good player. You have to have good players. And their players are not good enough right now. That's the bottom line. And somebody says I'm mouthy here. I've been saying this for months. They're bringing back 10 guys on the offense that was ranked 32nd in the league in points scored. And their solution was signing Russell Wilson, who is on his fourth team in 5 years. Oh, can't believe it didn't work. And then Malik Neighbors gets hurt. So what's going to happen now? It's going to be a disaster. Of course it is. And just my opinion, I don't think Brian Dable is going anywhere during the season. I don't think Joe Shane's going anywhere during the season. Brian Dable is going to coach up. He has a rookie quarterback there. He's going to coach up Jaxson Dart. Unless something goes completely off the rails, maybe they get embarrassed beyond belief in these next couple games to the Eagles. Who knows? But I don't think that's going to be the case. We have to remember John Mara is dealing with bigger, more important things than football right now, right? His health and his life is significantly more important than, whether you should fire a coach or GM or defensive coordinator during the season. That's just reality. And he was, as far as I'm aware, he wasn't at the game yesterday. And John Mara not at the game is certainly notable. Steve Tisch was there. I saw Steve Tisch. I saw Chris Mara and his brother as well. I'm sure I'm blank on right now. Frank, sorry. So they were there, but I did not see John, and I don't think John was there. So, to me, these are decisions they're going to have to put on the back burner and probably wait till after the season. Just my opinion on that. I don't intend to see. I don't expect for anything like that to happen. Now, making moves right now, they're on a short week. They play on Thursday. They have 1 day of practice tomorrow. If they do anything, we're talking about the 10 days between Thursday and Sunday. So that's kind of where things stand right now. I think I touched on pretty much everything I wanted to here. So Bobby, here I'm gonna introduce this one so that we could put it up on my podcast also. On to the next one. Let's bring on Bobby. Let's bring on Bobby now. Do you like that little wrinkle?
I know. I need to get like the most loud sound, the sound of a car crash of which I forgot. I need to upload. I did a nice burnout in my old Crown Vic the other day.
Did you like that story about how the dude yelled "Giants Nation for life" to me as I was walking off the plane?
I loved it.
Yeah.
So I had, I sent you some pre-planned questions, some from the Ghost Rider somehow. I edited a little bit and some of my own. Mm-hmm. But you mentioned something, and I try to not do this because it's just a new age of football and they're professionals and they get paid a ton of money. But like, it still does chap my ass that like some of these players, if they have a good performance, will in a sense celebrate it, right? Theo Johnson. And I want to ask, like, how is Brian Dable in a game where you have 3 straight fumbles, right? And these fumbles were not by guys who are these star players who you have to be a little weary about how you treat them, right? In fact, there are 3 guys who can probably handle it. Nobody was more down on himself than Darius Slayton after that game. Jaxson Dart has that type of attitude, and Cam Scadaboo is a rookie. How is he like not feeling the gravity of the situation? And similar to Aaron Glenn, like a week ago, how are you guys not hearing him dog cussing them, right? Like, and getting personal with it, like, like making that it should be an uncomfortable locker room after that game and throughout this week, and like putting myself, I'm like, man, I'm about to lose my fucking job because you guys can't hold on to the football. 3 straight times we got you down into the red zone and you guys just cough it up. Like, how is there just not, it just feels like you don't have that type of urgency from this coaching staff of like, this is it. Like, this is going to end badly soon.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about an accountability issue, right? Like that's essentially what we're saying here. Guys make mistakes and yeah, they're down on themselves, but there's no real repercussions. It's kind of the same complaint we have with the Yankees for the last 5 years, right? Aaron Boone, same thing. So what happens? The same mistakes keep happening over and over, right? And I do believe that's the thing here. I think I've told this story before. I had a player tell me like, yo, man, Malik like does whatever he wants. It's going to end up being a problem later on because other guys are going to be like, hey, why can't I just do that? And like this was what somebody told me last year. And it's sort of the same thing here. Like if you can kind of just do whatever you want. I fumbled, no big deal. You're not getting benched. You're not getting pulled. You're not the only one you ever really yelled at, like that is basically Daniel Jones, right? The only one who ever got undressed was Daniel Jones, which was the strangest thing to see. I guess you want, like, I guess the Bill Belichick thing is you do it to your quarterback, and then it proves that, everyone's, on the same ground, but he's not doing it to the other guys. You don't see that level of accountability. So I do think that is something. And when I mention like something just seems off with their operation and their culture, like that's certainly part of it. There was things like, even like somebody said to me at one point last year, I was asking like what went wrong, and one guy's on defense is like, we can't just throw the ball every single play to and he pointed to Malik Neighbors' locker. He's like, we can't. That's not a way to be successful in this league. Just throw him the ball every single time he wants it, and then every play, and have him have 15 targets a game. And so when other players are saying that, it just, something's not right. You know what I mean? It's like everyone's just looking around being like, oh, well, I'll just do whatever I want here. I'll look out for myself now. It gets to that point. So I do think to a degree there is that. And they're also, I think, numb to losing at this point.
Okay, so that builds on another question that I had. And you hear the stories about Jaxson Dart goes to all everyone in the locker room, like, that's my bad. We got to play better, right? I have a good feeling how NFL vets work. I'm sure some of them view that as a little bit of performative, right? Like leadership comes 7 days a week for 24 hours a day. It's not just that immediate, moment after a loss, right? Like I hate to pull back on use my experiences, but like I had once a coach tell me, it's like, you fucking throw a fit after losses, but you don't show up to 6 a.m. workouts, you don't hate losing because you don't do that. And Dart does all that stuff. So I'm not saying he doesn't, but as a point to the rest of the locker room, this is not about Dart. Do you think that gets like eye rolls from the Dexter Lawrence, veteran offensive lineman, Wan'Dale Robinson? Like, do you think they respond well to that, or are they just in a mindset of like that culture of losing? Like, just wait a few weeks and you'll be, you'll understand this is part of the deal here.
At this point, I think it comes off as genuine. I don't think they're rolling their eyes yet. If he does it every time, when he played pretty well and you lost anyway, and he's taking accountability, then it's kind of performative, right?
But I'm not even saying from the point of view of like, oh, is Dart performative or whatever. What I'm saying is like, are people are the player, like, do you think the rest of the locker room's responding to that, or is it just kind of like yeah, okay, buddy, like this is just the beginning of how this season's gonna go?
I think they had enough hope that they can win, that they could be pretty good this year, that they're not there yet. But I also think when there's Jaxson Dart is trying to build, you're trying to build something with Jaxson Dart, obviously, right? He's a rookie quarterback, that he can get enough young guys on board,
right,
with that is beneficial long term. And look, I actually watched, Saquon has a documentary coming out this week. I actually watched it today on the airplane, and he actually said something like that. This was him with the Eagles, and he said like Nick Sirianni told him, I forget what it was. He slid in a game and didn't go take it to the house, and the other guys were like, just take it to the house and score the touchdown. It was in the playoff game. And he explained how when the coach tells you, I forget what the term he used, but not to score, or, basically stop, mercy. When the coach tells you that, your best players then have to follow it. And then your best players follow it. And then the guys below you, your best player and your leaders see it. The guys below you believe it. And then they have to follow you. And it's like one thing after another, right? It's like a chain reaction. And so I think that's the case here. If Jaxson Dart is genuine in what he's saying, and he took it the hardest up there, at least. I'm not going to say he's the only one who took it super hard, but he seemed genuinely upset with some of the things he did in that game yesterday, and that, he cost his team the game. And if enough people in there believe him, but you also at the same time, Bobby, have to have your veterans buy into thinking. Also,
that's what my question is. Are the veterans working with him in that?
At this point they are. We haven't gotten to the point where he's lost 4 in a row, and then they're just like, oh, okay, whatever. But to this point, I do believe they're there. They are.
That's the point I'm making, because it's not even about Dart individually, but is Dex and Wandale and whatever, I won't ask about Slayton yesterday because, I'm sure he was down in the dumps regardless. But like, is everyone like pulling him along in that? Because if the vets eye roll at that, well, then that leads to in 2 weeks, whatever receiver they have out there eye rolling at it when, 2 weeks from now, whatever. So that's just
so
the kind
fresh
of question
that you don't. It's hard to tell, right? Jaxson Dart was the last one to speak yesterday, so he speaks. You already spoke to the locker room and saw the locker room, and then we haven't even gotten back to the locker room, and so I haven't had a chance. I flew home today. I haven't had a chance to talk to a ton of people, right? So I think we'll see. But my vibe is that yes, they are bought in for now, right? Who's the leaders? Russ, he's a good soldier. He's not going to rock the boat. Brian
Dex,
Burns, Darius Slayton. Who, Dex?
I think Burns is honestly like probably the best leader. You tell me, like, is Burns, like, who would be the leader on the team? Thomas is obviously not very vocal, and they didn't give him a captainship, even though he'll always be my captain.
I do think it's Burns. But Slayton is a good leader too, because that's why he was named the captain this year. I think it was that was by vote of team, and he is a veteran. He has done some things in this league. I know yesterday was a total disaster, so it's hard to lead when you play like that. But yeah, I think on the offensive side, it's him, and on we're not including Russ here. They made it him for the whole offseason and going into the first few games. But Slayton's the guy that they'll go to and guys will talk to, and he'll help guys out, and they go to him, and Burns for defense. Like, they view Dex as the best player on the defense. But I don't know if he doesn't have that same, I don't know, energy that Burns has.
Yeah, I think most people get what you're saying there. All right, so this is my main question for you. And I was just so fired up about this. It's week 5. Mm-hmm. Why is Deonte Banks still playing? How does they come to that decision? Why is it still happening? And how does nobody in that locker room, or coaching staff or front office say, this is ridiculous? Why are we continuing to do this? Guy is making mental mistakes, and forget the fact that he's making mental mistakes. This is probably a player that has low confidence right now at a position that you need confidence to play. And you're sending him out there for third down, for just hey, you know what? If you make a little mistake on this play, it ruins everything that we've accomplished the first couple of plays. It just feels like it would create division in the locker room, questioning of leadership, and it's hurting you on the field. When is this going to be enough? When is this going to be enough? And maybe it did. Banks only played 8 snaps yesterday. You guys really pressed Bowen on it today. I think Bowen spent more time talking to the press today than Brian Dable. I think it was almost 4 minutes talking about the Deonte.
You know what he didn't say? You know what he didn't say though? He didn't say
it was his call. He did not.
He didn't say it's my decision to play him. And he was asked. He basically was asked. And on multiple occasions, he did not say that. That was very notable to me, Bobby. So they came up with this idea. Okay, we need to try to get something out of this guy. So we're gonna limit it so we don't have to ask too much from him, right? This was the plan coming into the season. Now, when they got to the regular season, you know what? This is our way of trying to get something out of him. We'll make it easy. We won't try and confuse him. We won't overload him. Okay. And now I don't know why they haven't given up on it yet. It hasn't worked. Shane Bowen to me sounded like somebody who was ready to get, he didn't want to do it. That wasn't his decision. That's the vibe that I got there. And I've been told by coaches that were there in the past that the GM here is more involved with mandating playing time than at any other place that they've been. So it's I don't know for sure that that's the case here, because Dable, won't really say much. Shane Bowen said it basically didn't say, this is my decision. I want him out there. He was very tiptoed around there, the answer there. But to me, would seem like you're talking about a first-round pick, trying to salvage something out of a first-round pick. I mean, think about where they are with these draft classes. You got Evan Neal not playing. You got Deonte Banks basically not playing, and when he does, terribly. Those are first-round picks, Bobby. Then you got Tyler Nubin, a second-round pick, playing terrible. Like, there's no way to dance around that. Like, bad. Josh Azudu, a third-round pick. He's stashed on IR right now, right? He could come back, but he's not part of the thing. Jalen Hyatt, another third-rounder. They can't get anything out of him. I mean, they're trying to salvage draft picks. Like, that's certainly what it seems.
But when is enough with this thing in specific? It's 5 weeks of this. And every week you're like, all right, that was the week that they have to be done with that. How does nobody stand up in that room, whether it's Joe Shane's call, and be like, no, this is enough. You got to stop doing this. You are hurting us. You are hurting our careers. This is not salvaging a draft pick. This is, you're putting on showcase. Hey, look how bad we screwed up this one, right? Like, it's every single week. If he was just playing on the bench the last 3 weeks, like, every time Flott would give up a catch, people were like, we should put Banks out there. Like, it would actually have some type of better feeling, right? Like, Hyatt doesn't play at all. And all week we're like, maybe Hyatt's got something. And then he doesn't. Like, that's how, Evan Neal, right? Evan Neal doesn't play. And people are like, maybe we got something in Evan Neal. And they just like put on showcase. Like, it is ridiculous, right? This is not something you've ever seen where they're besides last year with Flawed and Adore a little bit. Like, this is just so
Here's my gut.
The ordinary.
Here's my gut. When these things start to pick up and get hot, that's when they usually react to the noise. This regime I'm talking about. This is my assessment. We haven't had practice. There hasn't been practice this week. We're not going to see anything this week either. It's such a short week. They barely practice on. It's basically like a walkthrough tomorrow, right? The one practice of the week is essentially a glorified walkthrough.
Yeah.
Just because you can't practice, it's just too short a period of time. You can't have guys go out. They're not even like half of them recovered to go out there and fully practice. My gut tells me because of the noise and that started picked up in the questioning, they'll ditch it this week for that primary reason.
Yeah, I mean, they seem to do it in game. Banks only got 8 snaps in the entire game, which
that penalty was so egregious. I mean, I know they could be like, we intercepted the ball. Well, you intercepted the ball because he tackled the guy too.
No, here's the thing: is he would have intercepted it regardless.
I think it was a really bad throw, but yeah, he tackled the guy, so we don't even know if the guy could have made a play on the ball. It was terrible, and it's the same thing every time. It's the key. He doesn't have any recognition of where the ball is. And so he just gets nervous and panicky and commits a stupid penalty. And by the way, Drew Phillips has become a penalty machine too.
Most penalties in the NFL,
and
he's giving up the 4th most yards in the NFL. I mean, they have the most penalties by DBs in the NFL. I actually went through every team's PFF today and like sorted through, counted the DBs. And the Giants had the most penalties by DBs.
Yeah, NFL Jesus has it, but also by team, and so it becomes very difficult. So I wasn't going to go through all 32 in the middle of the game yesterday. But
yeah, not in the middle of the game. But after everything was filed for the week, I went and did that.
But I'm saying, I have it popped up right now. Andrew Phillips has 7 penalties, 1 decline, 113 yards of penalties so far. James Hudson and James Illuminor are second with 5 each, and Deonte Banks is third with 4 penalties, even though 2 were declined. But, I mean, he's not even playing a lot, and he's got 4 penalties. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's just too many.
And Debo's got his fair share, too. I mean, Shane Bowen said in the press conference today, these guys panic with the ball in the air.
Debo only has 2, actually.
Yeah, I think that's what I said. Maybe I didn't.
You say he had a bunch. I was looking it up. Okay. I thought he had 3. As I look at it here.
Okay, so my next question is another thing that I'm a little fired up, and let me put timestamp 3850. I want to show a picture. This is at south of the border, right? You're like, what is this, the relevance to this? I want you to see the date. It says September 1st. Andrew Thomas in doubt plus Giants mailbag.
Mm-hmm.
And Van Twick said, are you concerned with the lack of depth at wide receiver? We are only 1 neighbor's injury away from being the worst wide receiver room in the league. And I went back and listened to our mailbag, myself and Grump at the time. And we said, hey, forget even like neighbors. If Slayton goes down, we're in trouble because you can't trust any of these guys. How did they decide and even leak out that what they're going to do is they're going to roll with what they've got, and what they got is just going to run 12? Like, let's say if those fumbles don't happen, are they just going to try and go through the rest of the season not using 3 wide receivers at a time and just run 12 personnel like they're, have Gronk and Aaron Hernandez, like, with Theo Johnson and Daniel Bellinger, which those guys did do well yesterday. How is this not been addressed when there actually is upgrades, right? Like there is upgrades to Jalen Hyatt and Bo Collins around the
league. Isaiah Hodgins much different than little Jordan Humphrey?
Yes.
Why?
Well, I'll even say this. Little Jordan Humphrey's at least, but I watched the film, bro, and I just liked so much more out of Hodgins. Little Jordan Humphrey actually can give you something down the field where Hodgins can't, but they're like, what you need out of that third spot.
They didn't want to play Hodgins the last couple of years.
Okay, but what you need out of that third spot is somebody who can get off the line of scrimmage, who can run the right route, who is smart, and who catches the football. That's what they need from that spot right now. Instead, they have Hyatt, who they can only send deep. And I actually went and just watched all his routes today, and that's basically all he did, even though Dart could have hit him for a touchdown on the drive where Theo had a second touchdown.
They almost give him no chance. They almost give him no chance to be successful. It's kind of
it's his own fault. But the point being is like
he contributes greatly to it, but that is not conducive for him being successful.
The point being is what you need out of that third receiver right now is somebody who can just be competent and do all the little things right. And they have two guys who are the exact opposite of that, right? Bo Collins looks a little lost out there. Him quitting on that route. He got banged up on a mesh concept that, would have been a catch for him that he got screwed up on. Like, why did they not go? Like, again, it didn't need a Neighbors injury for this to happen. A Slayton injury would have put them in a similar situation. Why was there never just like, hey, let's go get Trey Palmer, who the Bucs waived, or let's go get Isaiah Hodgins or Ronnie Bell or whoever? Like, why was there never that action taken? And especially so after the Neighbors injury, where they were just this confident, like, yeah, we're going to roll with what we got. We're just going to run two tight ends all game.
I think knew they were on short time here, and it would have been like too much to like. If you bring a guy in, he probably wasn't going to contribute much this week. Like,
but again, that's what they could have had him ready for Thursday night or the next week. Like if they showed this.
I think that's what they're looking at. They're looking at, okay, well, after the Eagles game, we're looking Denver. That's right.
Have an open roster spot. That would have been the perfect time to bring the guy in, even though he's not going to contribute this week, and let him help and learn the playbook and grow. Right. Even though this should have been done on September 1st when we were at south of the border, like. Why it's to me it's just inexcusable. Like I know you're not on the top of the roster, and that is an issue. That's the issue. Joe Shane's a bad GM. He's bad at drafting.
For me, that's the problem.
Top of the roster and bad depth. But this was fixable. This little area was fixable, and they just ignored it.
Look, remember they did try and get Gabe Davis, so it's not like they didn't know this existed. You know what I mean? I'm just saying
Gabe Davis is injured.
I'm just saying that was them at least acknowledging, hey, we could use another receiver. It's not something, that we absolutely can't do. But then they made the decision, this is their evaluation wise, just that's all it is they made evaluation wise that between Jalen Hyatt, that between Bo Collins and little Jordan Humphrey, that they had enough to fill that gap. Now, you think they're wrong. I agree.
They think they're wrong. They didn't play them until they were forced to.
I agree with you, but it's just they made a mistake here. Now we're gonna see if they're gonna be able they're gonna have to pay for it. But to me, the more egregious thing is we're worrying about the 50th man on the roster again. To me, the egregious thing is you have one high-end player on your of all your weapons, right? Everyone's like Darius Slayton got $36 million. $36 million isn't a super high-end wide receiver. You know what the top wide receivers get? $136 million, Bobby. Okay? Like that, $36 million gets you an average receiver these days. It gets you Darnell Mooney, Darius Slayton. Like that's what the market is for that guy. So to me, the more egregious thing is you lose, and you can't just go in with one big weapon like Malik Neighbors. Like the 49ers, they have McCaffrey, but yet they also have Kittle. They also have Ayuk. By the way, George Kittle's injured. So is Brandon Ayuk. Now at least you could still build your offense around Christian McCaffrey. You can't just have one guy. The Eagles have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley. Like, you can't just have one guy. That, to me, is the bigger issue.
That's obviously the bigger issue. Is they're bad at drafting. and that's why they have no late round gems. Their top players outside of haven't hit, even though K-Bon, Neighbors, and Abdul Carter are three of the best players on the team.
They're also paying Devin Singletary $6 million a year.
I understand that.
That was their big running back signing. Like you need significant players.
That's the hard part of the job, though. The easy part of the job is doing little things like this, and they consistently screw it up, Jordan.
That's why they're 4-17 in their last 21 games, Bobby. They screw up everything. The results show it.
But I can't believe they like it. Why not fix the things that are fixable? Listen, it's hard to draft great players. I wanted them to draft John Michael Smith, so I'm not sitting here being like, how do they like? I screwed that one up too. But like they screw up the easy things, like cutting Graham Gano or bringing in young kicker competition. The tackle situation last year. Like and this stuff matters for other teams too. Like the 49ers got injured, then bringing in Kendrick Bourne makes a difference, right? Then not just being like, we got Brandon Ayuk coming back. He'll come back eventually. We just drafted Ricky Pearsall. We just paid Jawan Jennings. No, they go out and get Kendrick Bourne, a guy who has actually played in the NFL, to be depth.
It is super significant, especially when you're a good team. It differentiates you from the other good teams, right? It can get you a little notch above those teams. For the Giants, we're talking about winning 3 or 4 games and winning 5 games. So to me, it's so minimal. I don't want to harp on the bottom of the roster all day. You're muted, Bobby.
Next question. Why do they only have 51 guys on the roster?
Yeah. Look, with the new rules and the way you can activate and push guys up and down, it's just a way of juggling the roster. They're going to end up with guys there eventually, right? You could stockpile more players. You have to remember, there's 53 guys on a roster, right? And how many get dressed? 46? 48 now, right? 48. So you're gonna have to have guys inactive regardless. So if they did fill those spots right now, let's say they sign little Jordan Humphrey, and who else is at the top of your practice squad?
Neville Hewitt would have been the reasonable. He was on his last elevation. Sign him and then activate.
So he's just, but you know what I mean. Like even if you sign these guys, they'll probably have to be. Little Jordan Humphrey would have been inactive anyway. So really, but the same 48 would have been active at this point.
But okay, so I'll change that. Why are they?
You want to add more players because you want to have more insurance and you want to stockpile more guys, right?
Why are they comfortable going with 2 running backs?
Yeah, that nobody has an answer for. Yeah,
which last week I excused it.
Wan'Dale Robinson is they view as like an emergency running back, so they're like, okay, if we have 2 and we need to get an emergency, we could play Wan'Dale there.
Oh, that's great. If we need the emergency running back, now we have Gunnar Olszewski and Bo Collins out there and Gary Slayton dropping every pass. Great. Really thinking this shit through, Giants. Okay, so let me get to see what the last of my questions are. We hit the wide receiver. We hit the bank stuff.
What do you think about what I said about the 4th downs? I just don't get it. Like they don't go for 2 of them, and then they go for one later. Then they come out in the second half like, screw it, I'm going to go for it all of a sudden. Like, doesn't have any consistency to him.
So here's the thing: is I do think gut should be part of that. But Brian Dable. But I am more pro going for it on 4th down, right? And people are like, oh, well, they can't execute, they can't do it on 4th down. It's like it's much more likely for them to convert a 4th and 2 than to get another stop, get the ball back, and then go drive. Like it's just much more likely to do that.
So I'm on the drive 52 yards. You're still on the other team's side of the field.
I understand that.
I hate any punt from the
let me finish. Let me finish. Okay, I'm pro go for it on 4th down, but I agree that I don't agree with analytics who when the model says, oh, every time the Ben Baldwin bot is the stupidest Twitter account in the world. It says to go for it every single time. So there has to be some type of gut feeling, and the analytics people, like what's his name, Cade. Is it Cade Knox? No, not Cade Knox. Yeah, Cade Knox, who complains,
and Ty.
Like and Ty CM, who he's been around here forever. Actually, the originator of the culture of violence slogan. They get mad when he doesn't listen to what they have their meetings on, even though I think gut feeling. But what I will say, make my point, is Brian Dable is extremely conservative on 4th down. It's like that Titans 2-point conversion just totally wiped our minds of one of the most conservative coaches on fourth down in the NFL. Doug Analytics probably has like some type of chart showing that, if he can link that for me.
Yeah. Is that it? You done?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't get it. My thing is, you would think after 4 years you could like sense a pattern and understand like where a coach and regime, like how they think. And I'm still like, I never know when they're going to go for it and when they're not going to go for it anymore. Like, obviously the ones at the end of the game, like those are obvious. I'm talking about like second quarter, 4th and 2 from the other team's 48-yard line. Like, you're running the ball. You got a mobile quarterback. Like, why not be aggressive? But then they punt the ball. And then all of a sudden go to halftime, and the 5 minutes between the end of the second half and the beginning of the first half changed the decision. The score also changed too, but yeah, you get the point.
I have one more question before we get into the chat's questions. I know we went a little longer on that, but and you may not have an answer for this one. So if you don't, just say move along. As fans, we want to get excited for Jaxson Dart when he does good and excuse the bad. That's part of the rookie quarterback experience as a fan. And it's 2 games, so you can't have any big positive or negative like, this is going to be great or this is going to be terrible. But through 2 games with Dart, they would be 3rd in rushing yards per game. That's obviously correlated to him. 32nd in passing yards per game, and then 28th in scoring. And that includes 11 points off of 2 drives where the defense put him at the goal line. Do you know what the thoughts on Dart are from people inside the building who may have not been as gung-ho for him as Brian Daboll?
No, I don't have that. We're too early. We're too early in the experiment. I will say this from watching. Clearly, everything he does is basically right now is based off his legs. In order to be a super high-end quarterback, I've talked to people about this. He's going to have to learn how to read defenses better and be able to throw from the pocket.
Yeah, like that's not much on his plate too.
That's super obvious. Like he had a lot of time in that game at points yesterday, and starts moving, dancing, not throwing from the pocket. Like, he'll have to learn to make more anticipatory throws, and that's part of the progression. I'm not saying it's a problem. We have no idea if he could do it, but ultimately that's what's going to, like, all this aura and, physicality. This is all great. His ultimate success is going to be determined on whether he can sit back there and read defenses and be able to throw the ball.
Okay. All right. So we're going to take some questions from the chat. I just put the link for your book up. So just copy. I don't know. Oh, I got to get a shorter link. Don't pay attention to that. Here, I got to.
Dude, just come on. Go to Amazon like a normal human being.
I'm on the page right now.
Type in Jordan Raanan. I was talking to the people out there.
I'm on the page.
I'm just saying, I was talking to people out there. Just go to Amazon, type in the franchise Jordan Raanan, and it'll come up. Or just type in Jordan Raanan.
There should be like a share link, a button on here somewhere. But we're going to take your questions here now. All right, so let's Stephen Griffin, member. We don't really do membership like anything on this channel, but I appreciate it very much. So let's get through some of the super chats, and then we'll get to keep your eye out. Westlock says, which position groups are better year 4 Shane versus year 1 Shane? Talent, not salary cap wise.
I guess if Malik Neighbors is there, you would say wide receiver. No,
yeah,
but he's not.
Wide receiver.
Edge rusher, no doubt. I mean, they were bad at edge rusher. They're certainly worse in the secondary than they were.
Crazy or not, linebacker, that first year was so bad.
Yeah. Oh, what's his name? Jalen Smith was a starting middle linebacker. Yeah. So definitely linebacker, defensive line. Yeah, but look, not a lot on offense, which is the real problem. Their tackles are good now. I think Illuminor and Andrew Thomas are like a good tackle combination.
Yeah.
But the line as a whole, the interiors might be worse.
Do you give us anything more than a 0% chance to beat Philly? Also, I really don't want to start from scratch with a new regime again, but is that smart? You take that one away.
There's always a greater than 0% chance. This is a short rest NFL, but it's certainly not a high percent chance. What do you give? I'll give what, 10%, Bobby? 15?
Even that feels like just generous. You know, like it's crazy.
I feel also. Tell me if you did agree or disagree with this. They didn't run the ball this past game. They tried to make AJ Brown and Devonta Smith happy, and like the Giants' weak point is their run defense. You just got to get the ball. Saquon's going to run the ball like 30 times in this game for like 200 yards. I don't know. That's just my gut.
This is the first game of the year we're on the preview pod. I just know people are going to like, why are you guys even doing this? Like, talk about this. Like, because every preview pod where we're talking about the actual game, like, in that is like what they do well and how do you counter that and have a path to victory. And this one, it just feels very, very silly. PM says, do the players support Dable? That's a big question.
Yeah, I mean, we're early in the season. He's good with keeping players happy, right? That's one of his things. I don't know if they're fully bought into the regime in general, right? There's definitely certain guys that they get frustrated. I think you saw that when they did make the QB change, not in that it was to Jaxson Dart, just like, we're making another change here on the fly. They're just sort of like, this is kind of what we're used to around here. So I think I wouldn't say they're not definitely, they support him, but I wouldn't say everybody's completely bought in. Like, you got to see results to be bought in, right?
Yeah.
How can you keep selling guys something and be 100%, have 100% bought in when you lost 17 of your last 21 games? Hey, guys, stick to what we're doing here, okay? It's going to work. Like, it's tough sales pitch.
Chris Spires, thank you for the chat, but we obviously hit that, so thank you for good mind. You knew what we wanted to talk. I want to talk about. Banks goes.
They also did address the wide receiver position to some degree because they signed Darius Slayton. It wasn't a great group, so that was addressing it to some degree. We're not talking about we were talking about filling it out more, but I will say they did address it to some degree because remember, Slayton was one of the better receivers on the market.
Reality is there's not much they could have actually done, and that's part of the reasons like why when you miss on Hyatt or you don't add anybody else, like in previous years, it sets you up where really the only upgrade they could have done was Diggs, and that coming off a torn ACL, very old, like troublesome, like that didn't feel like a great
that's a questionable move for them.
Yeah, obviously after last night. Now if Slayton does what he did yesterday, then yeah, they should have not used that money, but it's up to Slayton because he's gonna be needed. Savage Steve, would you
the thing with Slayton is you really don't want him in that number one role, you know? Like that's part of the problem. Like that's when you're asking him to do that and be that guy, it's problematic.
It is, but also being in the number one role, it does not make you drop the ball and fumble. Like that's Slayton's issues that he's had, and not the fumbles, but the drops have been his issues no matter what role he's been in.
He's had disaster games before.
Yep. Would you be interested in Burks from Tennessee? Says Savage Steve. Isn't he like? I've heard he's like a certified moron.
I don't know that, but I know he's been very unsuccessful. And I think he's been banged up too while we're at it. Yeah, that seems like another shot. Like that seems like a low percentage shot. Like you want, at least if you get someone now, I think you'd want someone that's just like, all right, we know this guy at least is reliable, you know. And I don't think that, from what I've heard so far, and this is not a lot, but like I don't think that's what Treylon Burks is.
No, he's a former
unreliable.
Just lives on practice.
He's there. He's there. Jalen Hyatt, basically.
Yeah, I didn't even like him coming out of the draft. I was like,
that's what I'm saying. A lot of people didn't love him either.
Steve Griff says, my eyes tell me Dart has a better arm than Hurts. Flea flicker play looked like he wasn't even close to throwing it as hard as he could. Thoughts? I will give my thoughts on this real quick. Go
ahead.
This is something that showed up at Ole Miss, right? It was something I tweeted about it pre-draft.
Loading deep ball.
It's not, again, his arm talent is good, right? But he doesn't have the arm talent to be like Josh Allen, where you can just off your back foot flick that ball 55 yards. They have a tendency to die to the inside shoulder when his feet aren't set. And it's not like just like, oh, he's pressured like crazy, his feet aren't set. He can be from a fairly clean platform, and he'll fall back. So that's something I think they need to drill, because he likes to throw the deep ball, but in the NFL, you just can't have it missing to the inside shoulder. You'll get some pass interferences that way, but you're not giving your receiver much of a chance to make a play. Even though forget the flea flicker because we know that was underthrown.
The throw to Slayton on the deep ball wasn't a great one either. The one that Slayton dropped.
Oh, I thought that was a great one. The middle of the field one? I thought that was one of his best throws. I think that was his best throws in NFL Pro.
Really? I thought he could have got it out there a little more.
He could have made, again, Slayton had to like bend over a little bit, so it could have been a little more perfect. But that's a hard throw to make. And it was a nice decision, too. So I disagree on that one. But like the Hyatt ones, people going to say, oh, they had a chance. It's like Hyatt had to like totally like, in the corners here, he's having to like climb back over the corner.
They were just playing 15 yards off him. A guy's sitting back there, and you're just like, all right, go get it. Like,
yeah,
that's like I said, I don't think that's set up for him to be successful in that situation. You're losing. He comes on the field. Everyone knows what he's doing. They're just okay. Sit back there and play the deep ball. Okay.
Yep. Is Shane about as James Gettleman, but simply in different ways? I was actually thinking about this a little bit today.
Yeah. Where do you stand on it?
I don't know, dude. It's like, let's say they get fired. Who leaves over the better roster for the next GM? Gettleman.
Probably Gettleman.
I mean, like, let's go through the Gettleman gives you Dex, Leonard,
Daniel Jones,
Dory,
Barkley,
Dory was good. Barkley,
Saquon, Andrew Thomas.
I don't know. Well, that's what you got to remember for this is like,
who does Shane give you?
That's the thing is like two of your best players that Shane gives you is Andrew Thomas and Dexter Lawrence, who aren't his guys.
Unless Dart is a star, the answer is going to that part of it has to be Gettleman.
It's Burns, Neighbors, and Carter are like the
Burns,
three prime pieces he leaves you.
Burns, Kayvon, Neighbors,
a good piece.
Carter.
His three prime pieces he leaves you are Burns, Carter, and Neighbors. Where
the answer is Shane. The answer to that would be Shane, as long as Dart's a high-end starter.
Yeah,
easy.
Which is we'll see with that. Obviously left indifferent. Baroque says blame goes all around, but how much do we put on the scouting and personnel departments? There seems to be too many swings and misses in the draft.
Yeah. I mean, this is where I was heavy on at the beginning of this episode. I don't know how to divvy up percentages because honestly, let's be honest, when you're losing this often, everybody is part of the problem, right? Like, it's not like, oh, the coaches are doing a great job or the personnel is doing, like, they're all not doing a good job when you're losing this often.
Gettleman left us with McKinney. Good point by Pat Hanlon.
Yeah, Pat's always on top of it. But like, yeah, they have to at least be, equally on the same pedestal, in my opinion. Like, they're right. They share the blame. In my opinion, like, they've made way too many mistakes.
And on a personal level, I like Dave. Like, I'd much rather hang out with Dave Gettleman than Joe Shane. So that might be the tiebreaker. It's like I actually dislike Joe Shane as a person, where I didn't with Dave Gettleman. Like him patronizing you guys, I love that. At least he just admitted. He's like, I have no respect for you guys. Like Windows 97. Yeah, whatever, dude. Where Shane, he's the dick behind the scenes. Or at least some people have told me. Let's see. I know we're only doing super chats right now. This is the last super chat. Bobby, in advance of filling, can you please share the behind the scenes story of you punching Dallas Goedert in a bar? I mean, it's I've shared it before, South Dakota. So I just sucker punched him. Let's see. Well, okay, so this is the thing we could finish off with.
Okay.
And this is not the week really to answer that because they have Thursday Night Football and the turnaround and stuff. And John Mayer's health situation obviously throws a huge wrench in this. But this is the type of season where head coach does get fired midseason because we just lost to the Saints and you're facing the meat of the schedule. Like you're very likely 1-8. That is more likely than not that they are 1-8. And at best, 2-7? In year 4, does he get fired?
Can I play devil's advocate?
Huh? Yeah, be the devil's advocate.
Is it really beneficial to change the voice in Jaxson Dart's ear mid-season? Like, what are you gaining by doing that?
I agree.
Your season's over, right? So if your ownership, you know what? Let him Coach Dart for the rest of the year will take care of it at the end of the year.
I agree, but the temperature is going to get so hot. Like it's going to be unbearable, man. Like it's just going to be every week of like the just vitriol. Like it's going to get really ugly if that's how this thing goes.
I actually think this loss to the Saints, the reaction was some of the ugliest I've seen in the last few years. And like it's gotten ugly here, but like there was just, I didn't even need to say anything. The anger was out there. Like people are just, they just reached their boiling point real quick here in a matter of a week. It's obviously built in pent up frustration, but yeah, I don't know. What do you think? You sense these kind of things?
I mean, I feel like it's getting apathetic. Like I'm starting to get apathetic, and I'm invested,
I am apathetic,
dude, and it sucks, like it just sucks that's the conversation we're having on October 6th. Like, and I'm tired of it. And it's year in, year out. And, I go back to the Senior Bowl where this year at the Senior Bowl, more people came up and talked to us than ever. And they're like, they kept these guys around. Like this, It feels like you guys are just waiting for them to be fired. And we left that Senior Bowl so depressed on the state of the Giants. It's like, yeah, man, this is just waiting for them to get fired, most likely. And then Jaxson Dart, the pick, breathes a little bit of life. But once the games start getting played, you're right back. And it's like, there's 12 more games in this season. And the only two things I have to look forward to is Jaxson Dart on a week-by-week basis and the rest of them getting fired. Like, it's hard to get fired up for anything besides those two things.
Yeah, I'll be honest. So my buddies with other teams are all like, man, if we go 3-14, I'll tell you what, I know I'm not going to have a job. Like they couldn't believe that you could go 3-14 in year 3 and still have a job. Like they were like, man, I know if I go 3-14, we're all getting blown out of here. Like that was like to a man. Everybody I talked to with other teams was saying the same thing. They couldn't believe it. But yeah, it's very depressing that they're sitting at this point and the schedule's only getting harder. Like, so it's hard to even like come up with spots where they're going to win games, Bobby.
This was, again, I had a real feeling this season was going to suck and be terrible. The Saints game was the one where it's like, just don't lose that, right? It was like the Panthers last year, where it's like, that's just the one game where like everybody looks at that and says, win. And I understand like nobody, like we've been accustomed to losing, so now we don't ever really do that anymore as a fan base as a whole, where you're like, yeah, we stop having some of like the normal fanhood that every team base has, because we've been so accustomed to losing and so accustomed to the trends of how this was what this PR spin is on this and that, and we've gotten so accustomed to losing that we don't even get to have like the fan cope of anything or the fan hype of everything. Obviously every offseason, it's when we put out our record prediction graphic, everyone's calling you guys morons. And then it ends up at the end of the season, you guys like overshot your predictions by like 3 games.
I mean, when you pick 6, you don't think you're going to overshoot it by 3 games. You know what I mean?
I know. That's the thing. It's like, you're getting called a pessimist for predicting 6 wins, and that's like likely double of what they're going to get. It just sucks, dude.
It does. Like, it saps the enthusiasm. Like it's like going to this game this week, you're like, man, can they even stay close? Like that's honestly the thought process I have going into this week. It's, can they even stay close?
Yeah.
Just get run over.
All right. You got anything else?
No, I think I'm good.
All right. Close this out.
All right. You listen to Breaking Big Blue, Giants Nation show. 2 for 2, baby. I nailed it. He's Bobby Skinner. I'm Jordan Raanan. As always, like, subscribe, tell your friends. Make sure you hit like right here. Boom, 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 boom. See you next time.